This tutorial is a little half-baked. See, some of my most requested types of short-form videos on my other channels have been one-light tutorials that were intended to show people the possibilities of creating images using just a single speedlight and some household items. How to make professional-looking lighting in camera without editing. My lighting invention, Halumin, was also designed to make professional-looking lighting for small products and food easier and faster than traditional methods, and also in camera. Since the goal of both kinds of videos are similar, I decided to make this video featuring a one-light photo shoot using a speedlight and some homemade lighting modifiers, then make the same image using only Halumin. Why? Because it's fun, that's why. And it's half-baked because I'm gonna be capturing this delicious cookie from half-baked. See what I did there? Can you tell the difference between these two images? Well, let's make them both and learn about them together. First, we're gonna start with the image that we're going to light entirely with Halumin, powered by one speedlight. And as usual, we're going to be using the Halumin Freestyle set. This is my favorite part of the setup. As you know, if you've watched these tutorials before, you just fling and it just pops open. So fun. Love the power, the raw power. The setup goes really fast. You just put the 4 support legs in around the perimeter, making sure that we push those legs underneath the structural rings. Those are the steel rings that hold the body of the Halumin together. Those 4 legs go in like so, and they're in. And then we have 2 additional legs that are gonna hold the speed lights. Those are tethered with removable tethers, but we have been using this a lot lately with the Freestyle set, so those tethers are already on here and attached, and they go together just as quickly as the support legs on the Halumin. And it's just that easy. The whole, the body of the Halumin is now set up. Now, as I said before, we're going to use one speed light to light this image. All of the lighting is going to be coming entirely from Halumin. So here is that speed light. It is a Photo A10, and it is going to just go into the speed light strap, the head underneath the cowl, and then turn it on and set it to, we'll start it at 80% power. We're gonna need more light out of it than we usually do with the speed lights because we're only gonna be using one speed light to match our one light photo shoot. On the other side, the cowl is going to attach all the way across like that. And that's gonna block the light from coming out of the other side. So on one side we have the cowl blocking the light chamber opening, and on the other side we've got that one speed light attached to the body of the Halumin. We're going to be using 2 accessory legs, and it's going to be kind of hanging off of the end of the table. So we put one on top and one on the bottom that's actually going to touch the ground in front of the table. So we take the 2 extension legs and the 2 accessory legs out of the case. So the accessory legs are super simple to set up. The first step is just to attach the extension leg. That just goes in like so, and we lock it in with the set screw. So now that leg is attached. It is going to be pointing down something like that. So we'll set that first leg that's going to be hitting the ground up first. We're going to be keeping this side of the Halumin, the side that does not have a speed light attached to it. That's going to be on the downstage side, the side closest to me and the camera. The reason is because we want that backlight to come in and come over and cover the upper and sides of the subject more than we need that front light. So we'll put all of the heavier end of the light up above it. All right, so we have the accessory leg attached to the front here, and we're locking everything in place, and then we just twist that leg and to twist it again to lock it into place. And we want to create an angle where about like this. So it's hanging off the edge of the table. The front end of the Halumin is a little higher than the table where the subject is sitting itself, but it's really low. So we want that light to be on the front really low and the light on the back kind of high. And what that'll do is that'll create a nice, it'll put our subject closer to the center of the staging area, which is where we get that really interesting dynamic and textural light. The second accessory leg attaches to the back. So we do the same thing. We attach this extension leg, adjust it so it's facing down. That's going to lock in over these rubber tabs. These protect the structural rings of Halumin from the sleeve getting worn out with use. We don't want that to happen. We want it to, years from now, we still want to have a great product that is still performing like it was when you first took it out of the box. And so part of how we do that is we protect the parts as much as possible. All right. There we go. So we set the height so that there is a little bit of pressure on these 2 points where it hits the table, and that'll just keep it from sliding around, but most of the weight is off of the body so it doesn't bend it in the middle where that front edge of the table is hitting it. So the next thing we need to do is align our subject and figure out where it's going to go, and then we'll figure out what we need to do with the setup of the Halumin to make the light work for the subject. And we might have to make some adjustments along the way, but that's the fun working in real time, is that we can kind of play together, you and me playing together in a field of light. So we're going to put our cookie on our tried and true little wooden cutting board, just like so. And we want to hang it off the table. You can see from this overhead that we're hanging it off of the wood part a bit, because this will kind of, we're sort of buttressing it out, and it'll allow us to bring the cookie again closer to that center staging area, which is what we want. And here is our subject today. It is a blueberry cookie with frosting on it. We're going to take a test shot and just see where we are. We haven't done anything to the setup of the Halumin. We've just set the cookie in place, and now let's have a look and see what we're working with. There we go. Okay. So here's our starting point. It's a pretty good shot to start out with, actually. It looks really good. So let's see what we can do to improve that. There's a shadow on one side of the cookie that is, it's soft, but it's there. That's because we're just using that one light, so we don't have the other light source on the Halumin to balance it and create that kind of signature look that we often get when we're working with it. You can see the depth and the dimension in the frosting. So let's play with it a little bit and see what we can do. I'm going to start by blocking some of the light that is coming off of the hot side here with a blackout strip so that I can manipulate the light kind of coming in on the other side. I want the other side to be a little bit brighter, but it's sort of perfectly exposed on that opposite side. So this is where the blackout strips can really help kind of shape and mold the light. The first thing that we're gonna do, however, is just open up these light adjustment rings, because they're going to allow more light to come out of the side that it's open up. Each one of those rings covers a third of the light strip that's around here. So you open one, you get a third more light. You open it up, the other one, you get a third more light. So we want to create a situation where we get more of that light coming out of this other side. We've got light coming in from both sides. It's kind of dark on the front, which is good, but it's a little hot on this side. And rather than try to adjust the intensity of like two different softboxes the way you typically would in a traditional setup, we're just going to use this blackout strip and block some of the light that is coming in on that side, because this flash is pointed this way and the majority of that light is flooding around this way, creates kind of a hot side. So we're gonna block some of the light from this hot side to just dim it down a little bit. There's not enough darkness behind it. It's sort of too lit. So I'm actually gonna move the entire cutting board back. And what that'll do is that'll get closer to this area where the light kind of drops off the edge. We'll open up a little bit more of this too and see what happens. And okay, I really like that, because now we've got a kind of signature drop off that I really love about the Halumin's design. We have a just gradient into kind of a black area behind the cutting board, and it creates a really nice pop on the subject. I'm wondering if I maneuver this around here a little bit more, if we can get a little bit more pop in the backlighting of the frosting. Okay, so let's see what this does. That's really nice. I think that's a beautiful shot. There's some drama. The edges and the texture of that cookie are really showing, which is nice. That edge lighting is coming from the side and back, and it's giving you that crust of the cookie, but then the frosting itself still has a backlight raking across it and gives it a little bit of a gleam. Welcome to this One Light DIY photo shoot segment of this tutorial. We are going to be creating beautiful lighting for this cookie from Half Baked Goodness using only one speed light and other items to create light modifiers that you can either find around the house or get cheaply from the craft store. The only piece of professional equipment that we're using to light this is this speed light on this stand. So very easy to follow along if you have limited resources, or you just want to figure out how the lighting will work to create the look that we're going to create. I get a lot of enjoyment trying to figure out how one light can work to create the different looks that I want for these different one light photo shoots that I've done over the years. We're going to need a few easy to acquire items from the craft store. You may already have them at home. The first piece is a metallic piece of poster board. This one is gold tinted, but you can use a silver one. We basically just need a little mirror that we're going to bounce some of the light off of this light back to the opposing side of the subject. This is a homemade softbox. It is a piece of black foam core with a piece of tissue paper taped to the rectangle that we've cut out of the middle of this. Very easy to make, doesn't take any time at all. We need a negative fill card. This is just a black piece of something. It can be a piece of foam core like this, or poster board, or whatever. You just need something rigid that is dark. So you can take some black construction paper and put it on a cardboard box, whatever you want. We also need a white reflector. This is going to bounce and diffuse light coming from this flash again and fill in some of the shadows. So first we start with our setup. Our subject's already in position because we just did a photo shoot with it earlier using only Halumin powered by one light to light it. That was very quick and simple. This is still pretty simple. It just takes a little more work to kind of figure out where the angles need to be to line up everything. We have these homemade modifiers that we made, but we need something to prop them up. And because we're not going to be using like stands and things like that that would typically make it easier, we're just gonna be really DIY in the whole thing. So I've got a bottle of olive oil right here, took out of the kitchen, and that is going to be our C-stand number 1. We're gonna use that to put this reflector in place, right like that. I wouldn't do this in a windy area because a little bit of breeze, the window gets open and all this stuff is going over, but there are no windows in here, and as long as the air conditioning doesn't come on, should be good. So we set up this diffuser, and one of the things that is important is where we position this speed light. We want to be able to like place your eye right where the light is and look. You don't want to be able to see any of the visible area in the frame of the image when you're looking from the perspective of where the speed light is looking. Right now we have the speed light set at 80% power and it's super wide. The field of view is as wide as it can be on the speed light. The reason for that is that we have this wide throw, and now we've got a big area where we can grab light from and bounce it and reflect it. So the light going through our homemade diffuser, our homemade softbox, that's going to get broken up and scattered. It's going to illuminate this tissue paper and make a really wide, soft light that's going to illuminate this from one direction. Let's have a look and see what just doing that's all we've done. Let's see what that looks like so you can get a point of comparison. All right, so you can see in that first shot, it is way too hot. We got way too much light coming from this side and it's blowing it out, which is a great problem to have because you can always dial the light back. The difficulty is when you don't have enough light, that becomes an issue. So we can just take this. We wanna set the exposure basically for this light. We want the light on the softbox to do a pretty good job of exposing the cookie as is, and then we'll reflect and bounce everything else we need to adjust for that. So I've got it set at 80%. I'm gonna take it down to like 6.5, and we'll try it again. Okay, that's pretty good. So we've got a decent exposure on the softbox, and it's still a little kind of moody on the other side. So now we're gonna figure out what to do with the rest of our lighting modifiers. Next thing we wanna do is create a white bounce on the opposite side of the cookie. So this will soften the shadows and it will provide kind of a contrasting angle of light coming from the other direction. So I've got an extra lighting case I'm gonna use to hold that. As I said, this is very DIY, and that's the fun part. So what this bounce is doing is it's gonna take all this extra light that's flooding over the top of this, hitting this, it's gonna scatter it and bounce it back a little softer. All right, so let's have a look at what this additional white bounce does to the exposure. Okay, that's really nice. So we've got a nice highlight on this side of the cookie. We've got an equal highlight on this side of the cookie. Pretty balanced. The background of the image is a little brighter than I would like. And so that's the first thing that we're going to deal with, is blocking some of this front light off of the background here. And you're gonna see this is going to take a lot of the light out of this exposure just by doing that. It is now blocking a lot of the light coming from this white bounce It's blocking a lot of the light that's coming out of this white diffusion panel. Okay, there's a lot of great things about this exposure that I like. We've got some things happening on the frosting to show that it's shiny, and we got some highlights. We've got a nice little angle right here. We've got a nice brighter side on this side, and it's dark in the background. I just want to see, this is actually a pretty decent exposure, but what I'd like is a little hot spot or something grazing the side of the back of the frosting and the side of the cookie. So I'm going to use the focus lamp on my flash. This will allow me to kind of see what's happening. And then I'm just gonna take that, and like a mirror, we're just gonna find kind of a sweet spot where that reflects. And there you go. That's how you create a beautiful look for a baked good with one speed light and inexpensive items that you can find at your local craft store.